good afternoon again. Welcome to Dragoș, Ciobanu. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay.
Hi.
So Dragoș is joining us remotely from Vienna. Dragoș is a professor at the Computational Terminology and Machine Translation at the University of Vienna. He leads a research group called Human and Artificial Intelligence in Translation, and investigates ways to improve localization workflows by integrating translation and speech technologies, as well as methods to optimize collaborative translation and training practices. He collaborates with language service providers from around the world and trains linguists from international organizations to maximize the use of language, localization, and project management technologies. So Dragoș Ciobanu is going to tell us about the speech-enabled post-editing of machine translation. So Dragoș, just for you to know, because we have very little time, 15 minutes for your presentation to 20 minutes, let's say, and then 10 minutes at the end for questions. I might just open the mic and tell you you only have 2 minutes left or 1 minute left. So
Perfect.
The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the kind introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I'm Dragoș. I used to play with translation technologies in Leeds, at the University of Leeds in the UK. And now I play with these technologies, including machine translation, in Vienna. And as you've heard, I don't do that alone. I do it together with my colleagues, with Alina and Miguel, and also our pre-doc assistants, so PhD students, Claudia, Raluca, and Justus. And essentially, we are looking for ways to help translators, revisers, post-editors make the most of existing technologies, and maybe even find new ways, more efficient ways of adapting to new requirements that they face in their day-to-day jobs. So that's what we do. And if you want to check us out, we do have a website, fairly up-to-date. So today I will speak about one of our latest projects, which deals with looking for a way to help post-editors work better with machine translation output. But the journey to this stage started a while back. And actually this focus on quality as well as ergonomics, but mainly on quality, has been around for a while. I'm sure everyone in the audience is a convert. I don't need to say how important it is that our translations are of the highest quality. And if anyone is interested in doing a bit of reading on this topic, Brian Mossop's article from 15 years ago is a really nice starting point. He was looking at revision mainly and how it happened and what we need to know and what research up to that point had shown. More recently, Joke and Lieve in Ghent were also looking at post-editing versus revision and trying to see how professionals perform them and also the quality of the final output. And they were also looking to see if it matters if we are told that we are going to revise someone's translation versus post-edit a machine's output. So again, something interesting to read about. But essentially, in all situations, this focus on quality and also this realization that we are, after all, and all translators are humans and we make mistakes, is coming up. And we just need to find effective ways of helping translators do the best job that they can. So given that context, when we read or when translators read such reports, such as the latest Intento, or the 2022 version of this report, where we read that 97% of machine translation output requires no human review. This message is received with mixed feelings, and some people really believe it and they get super excited, and then they get a bit cross with translators. Why are you still so slow? Why can't we force you to work faster? But the reality starts to show even in the same report, but you have to be patient to find it. The fact that these are some results from a specific survey or study that this particular consultancy company conducted, and it really needs to be qualified. So such findings, such amazing numbers, they always need to be qualified. So in this case, Intento does go on to say that actually there is no best machine translation system, and the quality of the output, the machine translation performance, will really depend on how similar the new data that you are trying to, the new text that you need to translate, how similar are they to all the translation memories that were used to train the machine translation engine in the first place. So machine translation is still not at a strong AI level. We're just dealing with weak artificial intelligence still, and I think we need to temper a little bit some of our expectations and face the reality. So, is neural machine translation really that good? This is just the intro. I'm not going to spend the whole time talking about neural machine translation, but we need to get this on the same page, and then see what we can do about it. Philip Cohen is one of the best known researchers in the field. Other people are saying the same thing, so this is just one possible formulation of the same reality, that if we compare neural machine translation to statistical machine translation, so what we had before 2016, essentially, actually neural machine translation can be maybe less adequate, even though it is more fluent. And we see that in our day-to-days, but also we need to really pay attention to what the translators are also saying, because they are seeing it every day. So translations proposed by neural engines may diverge from the input, the source text, in various ways, such as not translating part of the sentence or even generating unrelated output words. And we might not think this is such a big deal, but actually this is important. We also hear that neural machine translation is already very good, and if we fine-tune it further with in-domain data, then the quality will be fantastic. And again, we hear that, but actually when we go and test, we see that, for instance, in this study that we conducted for English into Romanian in the medical domain, and we presented this at TC44 last October or November. We saw that a general language neural engine, only for terminology, made almost 100 errors in 75 segments or sentences. And then with further fine-tuning, the number dropped down to 64, but still, we're talking 64 in 75 segments, so it's not nothing. And essentially, I think what not many people appreciate about the work of professional translators is that now, when they need to deal with neural machine translation output, their role, their tasks really look more and more like being in a self-driving car. You get into the driverless car and you are a vehicle, and you are told, don't worry about it, just relax and just use your creative powers when the necessity arises, when there's a major incident. But nobody can tell you when that incident will occur, what kind of incident we're talking about, how radical your intervention has to be. So it's all getting a bit fuzzy. And for a translator, there are very big differences between working with computer-assisted translation tools, translation memories, and post-editing machine translation hypotheses. And I really want to emphasize this idea that we're talking about hypotheses, we're not talking about certainty. We're talking about guesses, automatic guesses. So the biggest difference between working with these two modes is one of trust, of transparency, and of explainability. So just to give you an example very quickly, when working with a translation memory, when the translator needs to translate a new segment or a sentence, but it's usually, we talk about segments, a translation memory not only gives some possible or useful suggestions, but it also highlights, similar to track changes, what the differences are between the segment to translate now and the segments stored in the translation memory. It also provides a similarity score between these segments. And so the translator has quite a lot of information to decide whether they want to use a particular suggestion, what kind of changes they need to make to it. And also a translation memory will also always indicate who produced that translation before, when, etc. So it's comforting and it's useful for a translator to make an informed decision. Whereas when we work with machine translation, that confidence really is gone, especially in a high-stakes environment like translating for international organizations, because it's like you've got, I don't know, a worthy teenager in the house. They will always have an opinion. They will never just be quiet and say, oh, I'm really sorry, I've not seen this sentence before, I have no idea. They will always guess something, and then you try and ask them or try and guess where they got that idea in their heads, and they can't really explain it. So it's a black box, the teenage mind. I guess parents in the room will identify with this. Sometimes machine translation hallucinates. So just to give you quick examples, I'm sure everyone is collecting them, but instead of translating the Liebe, Kollegen, and Kolleginnen, I got an automatic, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I should like to begin by thanking the rapporteur for his excellent. So clearly training data plays an important role, and sometimes we collect these examples for humor, for, to have a bit of fun. But actually when the going gets tough and the translators need to work very quickly with tight deadlines, such occurrences are not very helpful. Some examples from the DGT, and I realize the screens are far away and you kind of have to trust me on this one, that the bit in the middle, the biggest part of this suggestion from English into Romanian, is where the engine decided to take a nap, and it's just repeating the same thing over and over again, not to mention that acronyms are not rendered well. Also, sometimes even the way text is written can lead to content being ignored or preserved. So in this case, just because I had a hyphen between the first part of my sentence and the second, I got nothing initially, and this is deep L. When I changed the hyphen to a semicolon, I actually also got the crucial request that I was making from the engine. Terminology is an issue because terminology enforcement is still a research topic in neuromachine translation. So we don't talk about objectives when we're talking about UN goals, we talk about goals, but training data can tell us otherwise. And sometimes we get exactly the opposite of what is meant. So for instance, again, you have to trust me, But I couldn't resist bringing a Romanian to a UN meeting, international organizations meeting. So you have to trust me that actually the Romanian does not say that the UN 2030 agenda aims to eradicate both hunger and also eradicate food security. It's quite the opposite. But machine translation provides a very fluent and plausible option, and that can be quite quickly skipped over. And a couple more examples of things that can go wrong. Decimal points can be inserted inconsistently, also little prepositions that don't account for much in the economy of the whole sentence, but actually change the meaning a lot. Machine translation can change proper names just because training data, again, favors a particular option rather than leaving them alone as a translator would. So, given all these challenges, what can we do in order to help our translators cope better with them? And in our work, we started from some reports we heard from European Space Agency, but also we read about in the literature from the OECD and other places where translators were reading each other's translations out loud, and that was a helpful process to notice and pay attention to some errors. And what we asked ourselves was, can we use technology to mimic this scenario? Can we get like a bit of a fake computer partner-ish who can read our translations or the source text, and this way help us do a better job? And we tested this hypothesis in one study, which we published a couple of years ago, or 3 years ago, well, 4 years now. In 2019, Alina, Valentina, and I studied the impact of hearing the source text while you are revising a translation. And in that particular case, it appeared, or our data showed, with an admittedly small group of people. So we had 11 participants in total, a mix of professionals and master's students. We saw that attention increased, and actually the accuracy, so the participants who listened to the source text actually noticed and corrected more errors when they were revising. So the quality of the output increased. And then it took us many years to persuade a company to actually implement such a functionality so that we could test it in an authentic environment. But finally, we had the good people from Translated who decided to actually enhance their tool and also sponsor or fund a research project. So that's what we're doing at the moment. And I'm going to show you how this interface appears. So let me bring this to my screen. So MateCat is a cloud-based tool, just like Eluna. And here, Claudia is creating a project, and she's enabling a particular functionality that was added, which is called text-to-speech. You already have text-to-speech in your Word documents. If you're using Office 365, then you have really good text-to-speech. But it's also nice to have it in a CAT tool so that you don't have to jump through hoops in order to benefit from a useful functionality. So now I'm going to be quiet so that you can listen to what these voices actually sound like.
COVID-19 stigma and discrimination. Should we be scared of people who have had COVID-19?
Covid-19 Stigma und Diskriminierung. Sollten wir Angst vor Menschen haben, die Covid-19 hatten?
Stigmatisation et discrimination liées à la Covid-19.
Devrions-nous avoir peur des personnes qui ont eu la COVID-19?
Estigma y discriminación por COVID-19. ¿Deberíamos tener miedo de las personas que han tenido COVID-19?
Stigmatizarea și discriminarea în contextul COVID-19 ar trebui să ne fie frică de persoanele care au avut COVID-19.
So the shakiest was the Romanian at the end. But you can see, I hope, how you can integrate or you can use a tool that has such a feature. And it's an on-demand feature. The translators need to click in order to activate it, and they go on with their post-editing as normal. I'm guessing I have 1 minute left.
Yes. 1 minute to wrap up so we can have interesting questions coming your way.
Super. So at the moment we have people coming to our lab. We are eye tracking them and recording their screens, and we're asking them to do post-editing in German from English. And they are all professional translators. So this time we decided not to work with students, but to get more reliable data, which we're starting to present. And Claudia just went to Gala 2 weeks ago to talk about this and to give you sort of the highlights, because I guess we'd better open up for questions. In terms of cognitive load, we don't see a difference. So it doesn't seem, at least from this data that we are looking at, it doesn't seem that translators find it more difficult to work in this condition with this additional plugin. In terms of productivity, we notice a little bit of a drop, and we'll see if that continues over the next 15 participants we have to analyze. In terms of quality, we see a little bit of an increase in the quality of the participants, especially when it comes to terminology, identifying grammar mistakes, and style mistakes. And in terms of attitudes, I'll just finish on this one and leave it for questions. Mostly, there are positive attitudes. So people are excited to be able to also listen and pay attention to and get the content that way. Both to the source and to the target. Apologies for going a little bit over, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Dragoș. Thank you so much for your presentation. I just want, before I give the floor to our audience for questions, I just want to mention that we have printed a few handouts in case it was difficult to read on the screen, and they're at the back of the room. So now the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Please, your questions. We have time for 2 or 3 questions, so don't be shy.
I hope the Luna developers do not hate me now for suggesting yet another feature. But you've implemented dictation already, so speech synthesis may not be that much of a step.
Hello. My name is Aladdin. I'm a machine learning developer from ITU. I have a question regarding the translation engine you use. You mentioned hallucination, and we suffer also from the same issues with our engine. And I wanted to know if you did any workarounds to overcome this problem. Is it like overfitting? Any?
So the hallucination, the engine that we can control is the one that we used for the English into Romanian medical experiment. And we fine-tuned it with the EMEA corpus, European Medicine Agency corpus. And we then started to see or try to guess where do those hallucinations come from, because we have some terms and some names of substances that do not exist in Romanian. So we're trying to work our way backwards, and we noticed quite a lot, and quite annoyingly, that the quality of the fine-tuning corpus is actually not that great. So we coming across lots of examples of misalignments, and also we are coming across examples of segments that are not actually some literal translations of each other, but they contain additional information or less information from the start, which is not necessarily a mistake, but it's just a difference. So our colleague Miguel is still trying to work out if there are any other explanations for these hallucinations that we get. But in parallel, we are also looking at the fine-tuning data, the data itself, and try to clean it up as much as possible, and then re-fine-tune and see if we still have these hallucinations. We got fewer hallucinations with the fine-tuned, which was nice, but still, yeah. So I'm afraid we don't have an answer yet, but the fact that the training data, the fine-tuning data has a lot of errors is, I think, a little bit worrying, because we're kind of assuming that, just like everyone else, if it's WMT data, if it's MAR data, if it's officially released data, then it's going to be really nice, but it turns out it's not. What about you? How are you dealing with this?
Okay, so for us, we trained the model from scratch. So I wanted actually to ask you if what was your base model to fine-tune?
It's MBART. We took MBART, and we then fine-tuned for English Romanian.
Okay, yeah. So for us, it's from scratch. So we use only our data to train it using...
So it's quite well curated then, your data.
We have a lot of data actually, but we have also this problem of misalignment, and yeah. So and mainly the main problem we have is the hallucination. Sometimes it just drops words like that. So yeah, and I think we still have a lot of cleaning to do in our data. Every time I find like special cases in the data, and I write again scripts to clean, and almost every year. So yeah. And thank you for your answer.
Thank you for the question. Good luck.
One last question, maybe? Okay, so I think I'm going to thank you again, Dragoș, for your presentation and for accepting to participate remotely. And
thank you as well.
Afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also like to thank the OECD as well, because they very kindly accepted to allow Justus to come and do more of this kind of study in their office. So it's amazing. We're looking forward to collaborating with more international organizations. So you know where to find us. Thank you. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you so much.